let's get this thing started.
The countdown to a new season of Counting Cars has begun.
I love it.
6-speed transmission.
This is gonna fly. 88 Testarossa, it's got style.
111 S&S motor.
64 Corvette Stingray, and the man, the myth, the legend, unbelievable rocker.
For years, fans believed they knew exactly who Danny Koker was. However, a recent revelation has painted a far more complex picture. To viewers, Danny is the beloved face of a successful automotive empire and the force behind Count's Kustoms. However, over time, public records, business disputes, and widely circulated claims have added layers of complexity to that image.
I've been running Count's Kustoms for 17 years now. Each day there's something new that rolls into the shop. You can look at it and decide what you want to do with it.
Get out!
What really exists behind Danny Koker's public persona, and what does Count's Kustoms really look like beyond what fans see on screen? Join us as we unravel the details behind the shocking discovery and what it could mean for Danny Koker. The shocking discovery. When reports surfaced that investigators had opened the floor of Danny Koker's mansion, it instantly drew attention and set off waves of speculation. The idea alone was enough to spark curiosity about what could be hidden inside the private home of one of television's most recognizable car builders. For a man whose life is built around public exposure through cars, television, and Count's Kustoms, the suggestion of something uncovered behind closed doors felt unexpected. Danny Koker was always known for his deep connection to automobiles. From restoring classic muscle cars to building custom designs at Count's Kustoms, his identity has remained closely tied to the automotive world. That passion is what made him a household name through Counting Cars, where fans watched him turn worn-out vehicles into high-value machines. So, when talk of a major discovery inside his mansion circulated, it created a sharp contrast between his public image and the private mystery being discussed. Over the years, his name has appeared in connection with business disputes and legal matters involving his shop. Now, the idea of investigators being involved was enough to shift attention toward his personal life, raising questions about what people think they know versus what actually exists behind his success. However, long before the rumors and the television fame, Danny Koker was already living a completely different life that most people never saw. Danny's hidden life before fame. Before Counting Cars turned Danny Koker into a household name in automotive television, he had already built a public identity that most viewers never knew existed. Long before the garages, the custom builds, and the television fame, his life was shaped in Las Vegas, a city where entertainment is not a profession, but a culture. Danny's background is unusual because his first exposure to television was not automotive at all. He appeared on local broadcasts in the 1990s and early 2000s as Count Cool Rider, a late-night horror host persona. The role was theatrical, designed around low-budget horror film presentations. He dressed in dark leather outfits, styled himself with a gothic rock aesthetic, and presented films with a mix of humor, performance, and exaggerated character work. In a city like Las Vegas, the persona worked. That character became more significant than it initially seemed. Count Cool Rider evolved from an ordinary television gig into the foundation of his public identity. The nickname The Count survived long after the show ended, following him into his later ventures and eventually becoming part of his automotive brand identity. When Count's Kustoms was established, the name was not accidental branding, but rather a continuation of a persona already recognized in his local entertainment ecosystem. At the same time, Danny was not limited to performance work. His family background played a significant role in shaping his direction. His father, Danny Koker Sr., was a musician connected to gospel and traditional performance circles. Growing up around structured music culture introduced Danny to discipline and stage awareness at an early age. While he did not directly fall into gospel music, the influence carried over into his later work in entertainment and performance-based industries. By the time he reached adolescence, Danny had already developed an interest in live performance. He learned guitar early and performed in front of audiences, including a notable appearance at Carnegie Hall. While not widely discussed in mainstream coverage, this moment reflected something important about his trajectory. He was not only comfortable in front of audiences, but also actively sought environments where performance was central. At some point, his focus began shifting more heavily toward cars. Las Vegas itself played a role in this transition. The city's car culture is deeply rooted in customization, restoration, and performance vehicles. Danny began collecting and working on cars long before television interest existed. By the time television producers discovered him through appearances on Pawn Stars, he was already operating in the automotive world at a serious level. Count's Kustoms was not created as a television concept. It was already a functioning shop with clients and a growing reputation in custom builds. When Counting Cars eventually launched, it amplified Danny Koker's pre-existing public identity. The show gave structure and scale to something he had been developing across multiple industries for years. What followed was a rapid shift from local personality to national visibility. But that visibility also meant something else had changed. Every part of his business, his team, and his personal history became open to interpretation by viewers who knew him only through edited television episodes. That shift became important later when the real pressure on his business began to surface. While Danny mastered the spotlight, serious problems were quietly developing behind the scenes at Count's Kustoms, and soon, one unexpected move inside the shop changed everything. The betrayal that cost his shop thousands. By the time Count's Kustoms became nationally visible through Counting Cars, it was no longer just a local garage operating in Las Vegas. It had turned into a branded production environment, where every build carried public expectations, television deadlines, and commercial pressure. That level of visibility changes how a business functions internally. It also changes what happens when trust breaks down inside the system. The most serious internal controversy connected to the shop came through a civil lawsuit involving a former employee, Joseph Frontiera. According to publicly reported court filings from 2017, Count's Kustoms alleged that Joseph was involved in the misappropriation of company funds over a period of time. The claimed total was approximately $75,000, with an IRS penalty fine of $15,000. The case was framed around unauthorized financial activity tied to business accounts rather than a single isolated incident. What intensified the seriousness of the case was not only the amount involved, but also the method described in the filings. The lawsuit alleged that unauthorized signature stamps bearing Danny Koker's name were created and used to approve financial transactions. That suggested a breakdown in internal authorization controls rather than a simple accounting mistake. In a structured workshop environment, when financial oversight is compromised, even briefly, the impact extends beyond accounting records. It affects project timelines, supplier relationships, and internal coordination between teams. In response, Count's Kustoms removed Joseph from the show and also filed a civil lawsuit against him. While Joseph publicly denied wrongdoing, the allegations painted a chilling picture of how quickly trust can be weaponized in a business setting. For Danny Koker, the issue was not only the alleged loss of funds, it was the exposure of vulnerability inside a system that relied heavily on trust and procedural discipline. Although the lawsuit itself remained a legal matter rather than a televised storyline, its implications shaped how outside observers interpreted the shop. At the same time, the public narrative surrounding the shop did not significantly change in real time. Counting Cars continued its production cycle, and the television format maintained its focus on vehicles, clients, and finished projects. This separation between public presentation and internal disputes created a gap in perception. Viewers were seeing a curated output, while the business itself was dealing with the realities of scaling under scrutiny. However, the financial scandal was only part of the pressure surrounding Counts Customs. Soon, even more disputes began surfacing outside the cameras. The cracks behind the scenes. In 2013, more cracks began to appear behind the glossy finish of Counts Customs' television persona. While Counting Cars showcased the team's precision and speed, whispers online suggested a different reality. Customers began posting reviews that didn't quite match the effortless efficiency seen on screen. Some noted delays stretched projects well beyond their estimated timelines. Others complained about unexpected costs or disagreements over pricing. Individually, these issues were not unusual. Custom car builds are notoriously unpredictable, with even small design changes or sourcing delays throwing off schedules. But the stakes were different for Counts Customs. Unlike a private shop, the business operated under the intense scrutiny of national television from the History Channel. Every delay and every complaint, no matter how little, became magnified. The complaints revealed patterns. Customers cited timelines stretching from weeks to months, with parts arriving late or custom modifications taking longer than promised. Some questioned pricing transparency, noting that quotes sometimes shifted after unexpected labor or rare component costs arose. Others mentioned communication breakdowns, emails and calls going unanswered for days, while the team focused on other high-profile projects. The situation drew broader attention in 2014 when a Las Vegas couple filed a civil lawsuit involving Counts Customs. According to the reported claims, the couple alleged the shop accepted roughly $50,000 for the restoration of a 1967 Ford Mustang, but failed to complete the work within the expected time frame. They also claimed the vehicle's condition did not match what had been promised. This sparked public discussion and debate about efficiency and customer service. Yet, for viewers and fans, the behind-the-scenes friction was jarring. Television portrays buildings as smooth processes with predictable outcomes, but the reality is far messier. Counts Customs team often juggled multiple high-stakes projects at once, sometimes under the weight of celebrity clients, racing deadlines, or unique one-off requests. Even the most skilled fabricators had to navigate compromises between practical limitations and material availability. Despite these challenges, the team continued to produce spectacular results. From meticulously restored classic cars to outrageous, fully customized modern builds, Counts Customs earned its reputation for bold creativity and technical mastery. But the online complaints served as a reminder that behind every glossy reveal and camera-ready moment, there were struggles invisible to viewers. However, the damage didn't stop there. As the business expanded under television visibility, the pressure was no longer limited to clients or building timelines. It began affecting the people inside the shop itself. Cast under pressure. Behind the cameras, the Counts Customs team was quietly shifting. Scott Jones, the original shop manager, stepped away from the show with the speculation of leaving to prioritize family life. Scott left a managerial gap that was difficult to fill. Having been a visible presence during the show's first 2 seasons, he was often seen handling customer interactions and project coordination. Suddenly, he disappeared from the screen. The series did not dramatize his departure, and no major storyline explained the transition. However, some speculation arose that Scott may have been involved in financial misconduct due to his role handling the shop's accounting records. Rolly Sabo, the beloved detailer known for his meticulous work and on-screen charisma, also departed. He chose to pursue independent detailing ventures and travel opportunities. His exit followed season 6 and was framed publicly as a personal decision, not the result of any conflict or disciplinary action. Rolly's absence left a gap in both expertise and personality. Known for his sharp attention to detail and engaging presence, his reduced on-screen appearances were noticeable, particularly during complex car builds and restorations where his role had once been central. Yet for fans, the absence of familiar personalities created an immediate, palpable change. Kevin Mack, Danny Koker's longtime best friend and the backbone of the shop's daily operations, eventually stepped away from appearing on camera entirely. His focus shifted to protecting the integrity of the business after the shocking betrayal by former employee Joseph Frontiera came to light. Kevin's departure underscored the toll Joseph's theft had taken on the shop, not just financially, but also on morale and trust. As these departures unfolded, the dynamic that audiences had come to associate with Count's Kustoms began to evolve. Fans watching closely sensed a subtle but undeniable shift in the shop's energy, even if the broader public only registered a smoother, more impersonal presentation. It no longer felt the same. Other familiar faces began appearing less frequently. Crew members who had once been constants on camera started rotating in and out, either due to personal choices, new career paths, or shifts in the shop's operational priorities. Each change contributed to a growing sense that the core team that had driven the shop's charm and cohesion was slowly dissolving. The camaraderie and chemistry that had drawn viewers in now felt fragmented, leaving a noticeable gap in the on-screen narrative. As the pressure inside the shop increased, attention shifted to what all of this meant for the future of Danny Koker, Count's Kustoms, and Counting Cars. What happens next? The trajectory of Danny Koker's career did not follow a single rise and fall pattern. It is better understood as a series of parallel paths that occasionally overlap. Automotive work, television production, and music performance. Each one continues to influence his public identity, even as the media attention around Counting Cars has shifted over time. However, now that Counting Cars has stopped filming, Count's Kustoms did not disappear from Las Vegas. The shop continued to operate as a custom fabrication business, handling restorations, modifications, and specialty builds for private clients. The television cameras had left, but the workshop itself never shut down or declined into irrelevance. It remained a functioning part of the city's automotive scene, supported by its established reputation and long-running client base. Danny Koker still stands as the public face of the brand, but the day-to-day structure of the shop has always depended on more than one person. Longtime collaborator Kevin Mack has been closely associated with the operational side of the business, helping maintain continuity behind the scenes. Other familiar names tied to the shop, including fabricators and painters like Ryan Evans and detail specialists such as Horny Mike, have remained part of the broader Counts ecosystem in different capacities over time. The team has shifted and evolved, but the shop's core identity has remained intact. What often gets overlooked is that Counts Kustoms existed long before television and continued after it. The shop's foundation was never built as a media set. It was built as a working garage in Las Vegas that happened to become televised. That distinction matters because it explains why the end of production did not translate into the end of the business itself. The show amplified visibility, but the work was always happening independently of filming schedules. After the series ended, the business shifted back into a quieter rhythm. Without production crews, episode deadlines, or the pressure of storytelling arcs, the focus returned fully to client work. Custom builds in this industry do not depend on broadcast cycles. They depend on craftsmanship, parts availability, design execution, and trust between builder and customer. That structure allowed the shop to continue operating in a stable way even without weekly television exposure. Danny's career continued in parallel through music. Count's 77 remains an active part of his professional identity, representing his long-standing connection to performance and classic rock. Live shows and appearances keep that side of his work alive without depending on television scheduling or production contracts. This separation between music and automotive work has allowed him to maintain multiple creative outlets without being locked into a single industry cycle. Over time, the legacy of Counting Cars has become less about its final season and more about what it introduced to mainstream audiences. The show brought custom automotive culture into millions of homes and highlighted the restoration process that many viewers had never seen before. At the same time, that visibility created a simplified public eye version of Danny Koker. For many viewers, he became defined almost entirely by his television role. The broader picture, including his earlier work in entertainment, his music career, and the long-term business structure of Count's Kustoms, often sat outside that simplified image. As a result, the end of the show created space for the real business to exist outside of constant public interpretation. Danny's public identity has ranged from a local television host in Las Vegas to an automotive shop owner to a national reality television figure to a live performer. Each phase built on the previous one rather than replacing it. That layered progression explains why his career does not follow a clean rise or fall narrative. It operates more like overlapping chapters that continue to influence one another. Looking ahead, the future of Count's Kustoms is tied less to television and more to continuity. The shop continues to rely on its established reputation within the custom automotive world, where craftsmanship and reliability matter more than media exposure. Its identity has already outgrown the show that made it famous, even though the show remains part of its history. Danny Koker's broader career reflects the same structure, though his roles continue to function as separate but connected parts of his professional life. None of them rely entirely on one platform to exist. Instead, they reinforce each other in quieter ways, maintaining relevance through performance, craftsmanship, and long-term brand identity. The end of Counting Cars did not close a chapter so much as it removed a lens. What remains is the underlying business, the ongoing creative work, and a reputation built over decades rather than seasons. Count's Kustoms continues to operate, evolve, and adapt within its own environment. Do you think everything that happened around Danny Koker changed how he moves today and the future he is building for himself? And what kind of legacy do you think he is really trying to leave behind now? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.